Hello, people of the internet, and welcome to this podcast. It's not really a podcast, it's just me sitting here recording stuff. I've been writing a series over the past, week or so. I've got about 7 parts. Well, I've got 5 parts finished, and 7 parts total started, at least. And I'm hoping that I can continue this, and that it is an enjoyable experience for those of you who listen to it. So, this is going to be about free markets, communism, government, etc., etc. It's basically like a philosophical foray into political and economic theory. So stay tuned, I hope you enjoy this, and I hope that somebody at least listens to it. I'm going to try and put this into a playlist so that it's nice there for you, and all that, etc. Okay, this is part 1. Begin. Many, if not all, supporters of communist theory have deemed capitalism to be a destructive system that needs to be relegated to the dustbin of history in favor of a communist society. I find this to be a very strange notion for several reasons, which I hope to delve into over the course of the next several minutes and episodes. Not the least of which is the fact that what they're proposing is that the free market system, which is all but proven to be tremendously effective at alleviating poverty and providing opportunities for countless millions of people throughout its lifetime, needs to be disposed of in favor of a system that has demonstrated the opposite. The underlying problem with communist thought is the failure to differentiate between what free market operations consist of and how they operate, and the overbearing, coercive force of government manipulation. I'll get into this particular issue in time, but I bring it up now so that I don't lose the attention of certain potential audiences. For a quick preview, just let me state that the government is not an arm of the market, as so many proponents of the abolition of free markets claim. For now, however, let me explore a brief history of markets and market inclusivity in an attempt to show that markets have been far more beneficial to humankind than any communist is willing to admit. In 1688, England underwent a revolution of sorts. This revolution was different from many other revolutions in that it did not take place from the bottom up, but from the top down. In the previous centuries, the signing of the Magna Carta by King John in 1215 had allowed for relative pluralist representation within the English monarchy. Over time, this caused many of these newly represented groups to try and ensure that their hold onto power and representation did not wane. In the time immediately preceding the Glorious Revolution in 1688, more and more aristocrats with market and business interests were vying for representation through the crown. When the revolution finally took place, many of these aristocrats were given a foothold in the political process, and the merchants and enterprising businessmen they represented were now granted an increased ability to compete in the marketplace. Market representation was by no means completely pluralistic at this point, but by the standards of the day, it was the most market-friendly environment in the world. Once again, I must stress that it was not perfect. There were still many people in groups that did not have sufficient market representation in order for this to be considered free market by today's standards. But again, we must not look at it from today's standards, but by the standards of the time. The relative market inclusivity that resulted from the Glorious Revolution allowed entrepreneurs and businesses to invest in new technologies and to innovate and market new products. The textile industry flourished for a time, until the Crown decided to grant monopolies to certain businesses to keep them secure in their interests, as well as outlawing the import of material from other countries such as China and India. Such government dictates kept prices high where they had otherwise been falling steadily as a direct result of market pluralism. So again, it wasn't perfect, and a burgeoning oligarchical class was beginning to hog-tie the markets in their favor, surprise, surprise. There were other negative effects that loosely stemmed from the Glorious Revolution that I will get into momentarily or in the next episode. But before I do that, let me continue explaining how pluralist market inclusivity has shown to raise the quality of life for millions. America was founded largely on fledgling free market ideologies. The founders had seen how markets had raised the standards for massive segments of society and wanted to ensure that any government that they established did not block the flow of the market or hijack it for exclusive government purposes. So they established the Constitution with a design to limit the powers of government and wrote up the Bill of Rights to guarantee that the individual was respected. Unfortunately, it didn't work long term. However, it was a revolutionary system, and it allowed for individuals to participate in the marketplace like never before. Private property and the freedom to market goods and innovations resulted in the fastest, most prosperous period of growth the world had ever seen. Indeed, much of what we take for granted today would not have been made possible if it were not for the market freedoms that Americans enjoyed in the 19th century. An innumerable number of inventions and an immense amount of productivity enabled the lives of Americans to steadily become better and better. The poorest of the poor had opportunities set before them that their forefathers could never have imagined possible. There are hundreds of examples of relatively poor individuals lifting themselves out of poverty and into wealth due to the power of the market. More information on this process is available to those who are willing to look for it. There are volumes filled with specific examples of how this process has worked. The point of this particular episode, however, is not to list all the examples and explore them, but to address a different set of ideas. Indeed, time is fleeting. Communism, by contrast, has so far demonstrated itself to be greatly harmful to human prosperity. In every place it has been implemented over the past 100 or so years, it has shown to bring death and suffering to those who are most in need of help. Communism in Russia and China provides some of the clearest examples of the harm that communist ideologies can wreak on humanity. Yet, many today are clamoring for the end of capitalism, the end of free markets, and for the institution of communism. In the process of technological innovation, the designs that show promise, the inventions that have demonstrated themselves to be of value, to operate with effectiveness, and to assist us in attaining our goals are implemented. Over time, they are improved. We started out with a Model T, and now we have Tesla Motors. By contrast, designs that have shown themselves to be harmful or inhibitive to our goals are discarded. If a design doesn't work, it is scrapped in favor of one that does. So why then, are so many so enthusiastic about putting capitalism and free markets to death when they have so far demonstrated themselves to be of invaluable service to human achievement and to lifting droves of people out of destitution and into prosperity? Why do these same people wish to implement communism when it has thus far shown to be so vastly counterproductive? Communism was done wrong, they will claim. If only these couple of things were changed, it would be perfect. I find this funny because it sounds exactly like the counter-argument that communists will use against capitalism. Capitalism was done wrong, they will claim. If only the government were out of the way, it would work wonderfully. Ha ha ha, stupid capitalists, yeah, right. I'll get into that in a little bit, so be patient. But the main idea is that we tweak what shows promise, and free markets have shown promise. Humanity doesn't evolve in definable steps, snapping from one system to the next in a sudden jarring instant, but through a slow series of overlapping, interlaced discoveries. Free markets are one such discovery. It takes time to figure out how it should be implemented. Discovery is a process of trial and error, successes and disasters. The contrast between the demonstrated effects of communism and the demonstrated effects of capitalism is great. As I attempted to explain, one of them has clearly shown to be beneficial, while the other has clearly shown to be harmful. Again, why would we work to improve the one that has shown to be damaging to our ends, and relegate the one that has improved the quality of life for so many to the trash bin? It doesn't make any logical sense. Soon, I'll get into the communist or Zeitgeistian argument that governments and markets are synonymous with one another.